you check the children. Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Wolfman.
And we are here to do a dual movie review, as we do every now and again, especially as we're going back through some older franchises. And we've done the first two parts of Lake Placid, Lake Placid 1 and 2, and then Lake Placid 3 and 4. Those were Patreon requests from Heather Smith, who also requested one of the films that we're about to talk about today. But the next in that series is Lake Placid versus Anaconda. And we technically haven't done the Anaconda movies on the channel.
True.
And so Heather requested Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid, which is the second film. We never technically talked about the first film, so that's what we're doing today. Anaconda 1 and Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid, which is the second film in the franchise. And then we're going to be recording reviews of parts 3 and 4 as well. So keep on the lookout for that review. That review is going to go significantly different than this one. So, that being said, they might not be the longest reviews, but, you know, we'll get our points across here. Starting with the first Anaconda film, the best Anaconda film, and the only Anaconda film worth your time, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it's like between like this and Lake Placid are the two best giant animal movies. Obscurely large animal movies.
Yeah. I mean, the first movie is a good time. I had a really good I remember seeing this in the theater. This is Jennifer Lopez when she was going after the acting of it all. She still dips her toes in every now and then.
She does, but this was when she was putting out good movies.
Yeah.
Like this, The Cell.
Yep, The Cell.
Like she was on good projects, and then all of a sudden something happened with like Gigli and all her Ben Affleck
Jersey Girl
stuff and weird
But anyway, then we also had Ice Cube and Jon Voight and a number of other character actors. Yep, Eric Stoltz. Yep. But it was a fun cast, and just overall thoughts. I really had a good time with the original Anaconda. It's a stupid summer movie that, especially for horror fans, it's like the equivalent of a summer blockbuster in the horror genre. Because, there's big set pieces, especially the end with the silo and everything. And I just really enjoyed the film. It was unlike another creature movie that we'd seen up until then. I mean, there was a bit of Jaws because it's in the water sometimes and things like that. But outside of that, I had a really great time with the original Anaconda.
Oh, absolutely. Same here. And so snakes are one of my big phobias. So this movie was like nightmare fuel since I was a kid from when I first watched it. But at the same time, I fucking love this movie. Like, it's one of those things, like, I don't like snakes, but I like learning about them. I like the giant, like, snake movies, like Python and Boa, like, all those dumb ones, like, I can't help it. They're fun, but I just don't like snakes. I don't like them. Just burn them all down.
So you wouldn't want to be in the movies,
but
you like the movies.
No. Hell no. Like, there's no, even, like, animatronic, fake snake, whatever. Especially in this one, like this snake looked terrifying.
Yeah.
And hell no, I would have shit myself and had a heart attack at the same time.
It was still early CGI too, so some of these snake effects don't look the best, but it was a $45 million budgeted film, so even the CGI snake effects still look, passable for the time.
Absolutely, and that's the thing too. It's like they definitely took their time with crafting the CGI snake to actually make it look like a real fucking snake,
and that it was in the environment.
Exactly. Something
they didn't bother doing with the rest of the movies.
Oh man, we'll get into that later.
But yeah, the story was a fun story. I mean, just to the real quick and dirty of it is there's a documentary film crew down there trying to film about a tribe in the Amazon,
rainforest.
Amazon rainforest, and they run afoul of a giant anaconda, and they also run afoul of Jon Voight, who is a unknown to them, a poacher, and he promises to guide them, but he has other other things on his mind.
He's got other plans and everything that he's using them for, basically.
Yeah, and then it's just it becomes a snake slasher movie. And I enjoy those movies. I enjoy creature features, and even if the creature feature or the creature featured is a real life creature, I enjoy the hell out of it. So yeah, the story was totally fun.
Well,
for
and
me.
also too, it's like they actually built up like a legend behind the snakes, because there was 3 different snakes that they came across during this journey and stuff, like that warrior snake and the big at the waterfall, things like that. Like, it was cool how they set that up, and then sadly enough, they kind of got lazy down the line.
Yeah.
And if they would have stuck, I think, with surrounding that area of the Amazon and like that part of the story, I think the franchise would have done a lot stronger throughout.
Yeah.
Maybe not with the budget wise, but I think possibly story wise, it could have helped it a little bit longer down the road.
Yeah, probably would have done a little bit better, but yeah. And then the acting was fun throughout. They didn't really have. I mean, it was a $45 million budgeted film, so everyone. They paid for good acting, and they got it.
It was a stacked cast, especially for like who was popular in the '90s and shit, and who's coming up. Like how Owen Wilson back in the day.
Yep.
Like we had him and stuff. But no, like this movie, everyone, all the cast for what they did, even for small roles, for like take Eric Stoltz. Like realistically, he was only in the movie for 15 minutes of it. But for what his stuff was and what he needed to accomplish in that, it was effective.
Yeah.
He was that heartbreak in the initial part of the story.
Yeah.
To get everybody reeled in, and of, oh shit, what's gonna happen next, and who's like, is he gonna survive, kind of thing.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I thought the acting was really enjoyable throughout. I thought the film was well made, especially because they had the budget to make it look as good as they could, and the production design was fun of the boat, and then the small parts of land that they would utilize, and especially the end set piece.
True.
With the silo and everything. I think that it was a well produced and well made film. And then that also getting, because again, we don't want to take too long on one film here. The effects, again, for the time, it was early CG. You take that into account, and it was still really entertaining. A lot of really cool practical stuff was done.
Well, and that's the thing too. Is like they utilized that nice balance of CG for the heavy movement scenes that we really needed for the snake, but more so focused on the practical effects and the animatronics for, I would say, a good 80% of our action shots with our actors.
Yeah,
and that helps it to sell so much better.
Yeah,
and you get a better reaction from your actors versus like a green block that you're looking at.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, all of it works really well, and the film is dumb fun, dumb creature feature fun, but really well produced and as I said, well made. So yeah, Anaconda definitely still worth your time.
It still holds up.
Yeah,
it does. Like obviously, like
some dated effects. But
some dated effects, but that was pretty typical for the '90s. They're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
T2 is a fantastic movie, but
that was '92.
Yeah, but we still gloss over like the CG on that. Even though it still looks pretty good.
T2 still looks really good. But yeah, so Anaconda, number
definitely
one,
worth
worth your time. A great time at the film, at the movies. But yeah, let's move on to Anaconda's Hunt for the Blood Orchid. Yep. And this is one where they created a mythos within the Anaconda universe, as far as apparently there is a flower that blooms where you can find anacondas once every 7 years for 6 months. And this is where it was kind of a Deep Blue Sea-esque setup where there's rich people who learn about this, in this film's case, a board of directors, and the next two films' case, a single billionaire. But in this one, it's a board of directors of people, that are about to cut funding to a group, but the group revealed to them about the Blood Orchid and the fact that it's essentially a flower fountain of youth. Yep. You can distill the flower down and ideally use it to fight off all kinds of diseases and make people essentially immortal if the science works how they think it will. But the flower's only blooming for 2 more weeks.
Oh no!
And so they have to hustle and
go down
put together
now.
a team, which they try and do what they did in the first film and give each member of the team a different personality, try and make them each a separate sort of character, all the way down to the big hero, like the meek but big hero, who literally jumps into the water to fight off an anaconda at one point.
No, it was a crocodile.
Oh, it was a crocodile. Sorry.
It was a crocodile.
Yeah, fight off a crocodile.
He wrestled. He Steve Irwin'd a crocodile, but he killed it
with a knife.
With a knife, yeah. He crikeyed the shit out of it,
and then bedded down every woman on the boat. No, that doesn't really happen. But that's what it felt like, the way they were all looking at him fighting the crocodile. So anyway, this big over-the-top alpha male. Yeah,
but my biggest gripe with him is, like, if you looked at it, like, he carried himself like he was hunched over and everything like that. And just that gruff whisper kind of voice.
Yeah. Talk like Batman the whole time.
Literally. Unless it's mating season.
Oh, God.
like, bro.
Yeah. So basically,
some of the writing in this was not that great, but you can definitely tell they still gave it an effort, because it was one of the last theatrical released Anacondas.
This was the last.
Well, yes. This was the last.
Yeah, and
they still had because this one I think was a $7 million budget, $8 million.
No, this one was 25.
This one was 25.
Yeah, the first one was 45. The second one was 25.
Okay, that's what it was.
And then it's not disclosed how much we got for the third or fourth entry. But so this one was still had some production value to it, for sure. Mm-hmm. It was still filmed out in a jungle somewhere.
Yep. For the most part,
yeah.
I do remember watching the BTS stuff back in the day when it first came out.
All right,
like
fair.
it was fun to watch and shit.
Yeah,
like there's some scenes where it was actually a good solid practical, like that encapsulation of all the snakes.
Yeah,
that was a giant tank with practical, and then they CG'd a bunch of other snakes over it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. The idea is, in the first one there was a few anacondas. In this one, it's mating season, and so there's one female anaconda, and apparently male anacondas come from all over the place to try and get a shot, and so you don't want to be caught in the path of a male anaconda going to try and lay some snake pipe.
Just all them teeth and no toothbrush, so ornery.
So that's the idea in this one, and the Blood Orchid, of course, only blooms because it attracts anacondas, so that's where the mating pile is, and so they have to somehow get the flower before it stops blooming, and avoid death by anaconda.
Pretty much.
And they don't successfully avoid death by anaconda.
Not really. And there's some pretty bad decisions that happen.
Yeah.
Especially in the cave sequence, especially.
Yeah,
like there was some real notable and questionable decisions that happened on in there. I'm just like, you guys survive in the Amazon this long?
Yeah,
like what?
Well, yeah, it was a lot. So the script was a lot dumber at a lot of times. I mean, the overall idea is
a little bit more plot
interesting.
Armor for characters.
Yeah, definitely more plot armor, but still silliness, and they really started to slide on the snake effects right away in part 2. Like there's very few. Like the only time it actually looked good was they did like 1 or 2 shots of it in the water as they're walking through the water.
That's
like
true.
Intertwined amongst them, and I think that stuff must have been practical.
I think some of the close-up shots initially after.
I think some of the higher shots where they could fit like 5 or 6 people, they just have it in there, and
it's possible.
So I think, but yeah, otherwise everything outside of the water looked really like rough CG.
It was.
They did not have that extra $20 million for the CG.
No, but I will still at least give them the credit on this of they still kept the proper proportions and looks of snakes.
Actually, I feel like that was the first one where I started to notice that they were making them like sea serpents, and their teeth were huge.
Oh yeah. Their teeth grew massively.
Yeah, they don't really have that big of a teeth, but
no, it's like giant boas. And
yeah,
shit
that's
like
what it
that.
looked like.
Yeah, it was basically giant rock boas.
They looked like they had dinosaur heads, you know, like
yeah.
the plesiosaur from you
Yeah.
know the water.
And a couple of them, like especially
or not a plesiosaur. What's the one that's the long neck that can? It's got like the fat body and the flippers, and then the long neck, and then, like it's got that kind of jaw.
Fucking Nessie.
Yeah, it's a Nessie. It is. It's like the Nessie.
It's fucking Nessie.
It's your typical Nessie.
Yeah. But no, there was
yeah.
one snake in particular, especially like during the jungle hut scene.
Okay.
During that attack.
Yeah.
Because again, even though it's an older movie, we still don't want to do spoilers and stuff.
Yeah. Just in case you want to waste your time too.
Yeah, but it still wasn't that bad.
It wasn't that bad. Yeah.
It wasn't that bad. But
we're taking steps down.
Yeah, baby steps. The design of the head I felt was too triangular and too narrow.
Yeah.
It didn't have that like wide jawline in the sense that they're supposed to have, and like that kind of fronted flatness. I don't know. Yeah. They just started like the snake designs weren't super terrible, but you can tell that they were taking some liberties on the mutations of the snakes.
Yeah.
You know, for what they play into for the story.
Yeah, which we'll get to eventually with the next couple movies. But acting wise, it was okay, but you could tell it was starting to not be as as cared about as much.
True. Overforced comedic dialogue with certain characters.
Yeah, exactly. They really tried to force the comedy relief, and it just didn't play as well this time around.
A couple, like there are some characters like they did play the roles good, like the bad guy. Mm-hmm. I did like how he played well for what he was written.
Yeah.
There's again some clunky dialogue with him a little bit.
Yeah.
But I thought he was probably the better highlight.
He did what he could with what he had.
Yeah, he was the better highlight for the actors out of this. Even our main, the blonde girl, I couldn't tell if she was putting on a southern accent or
I know. Sometimes it came and went.
Yeah, or if it was maybe
ridiculous.
just on the dialogue how she was delivering it, where it just made it sound like she was cutting in and out of like a fake accent. I don't know.
Whatever it was not consistent.
No.
That took you out of it a bit.
The scenery was pretty.
Scenery was okay. It was still shot pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just when it was the shots that needed the snake ruined the shots because it was so rough and you couldn't focus on anything but the bad looking snake.
And also too, like the swiftness.
They start to move a lot faster in this one.
It is ridiculous.
And there's
like
no ground
Sidewinder
displacement, because the CG wasn't at the place where you could show them displacing the leaves on the ground as they slither. They don't even do that until like a couple of shots in part 4. They don't bother with it at all in part 3.
I know, I noticed that.
But yeah, this it starts a downward trend, unfortunately, for the Anaconda movies. But it was released in the theater, so it had some redeeming value.
That's true.
Just
again,
not
it's not terrible, but obviously it's not as good as the first one is. We're not
not at all.
I gotta bullshit, but it's not a terrible time. Like it's not a terrible time.
It might still be worth watching if you're watching one, but that's as far as we can recommend you go. And we'll talk more about that in the next review.
I personally would say that should be your encompassing story of Anaconda.
That's as much Anaconda as you need.
I
in your
really
life.
do. Yeah. And it's like, oh, cool. So that's where it ended right there.
Yep.
So
thank you very much to Heather Smith for requesting this. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel the way that you do. We greatly appreciate it. The link to become a patron is in the description box down below. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
Robert the Wolfman.
And remember, stay scared.